Hey, what's up, Harvester student leaders? This is Matt here to talk about Harvester Student Ministry New Vision. I think vision is a word that gets confused a lot, and people might question what it means or why it's even necessary, and let me try to explain that to you. So, one of my favorite games is a game called Settlers of Catan. The way you win the game is you get 10 victory points. But there's many different strategies that everyone can do to win the game. They're trying to collect these resources, and the resources help them get the points. So some people might focus in on a particular resource. Maybe if you know the game, like sheep or ore or brick or whatever. Some people, they might try to be more aggressive per se. Maybe you're that type of person where you're not trying to collect all the resources, but you're trying to take other people's resources away. One of my favorite parts of the game is just to see the different ways people strategize to accomplish the goal of getting the 10 victory points after the 3-hour game, and they try to win the game. So that would be the idea of mission and vision. The mission is to get 10 victory points. The vision is the strategy in which you do to win the game. At Harvester, we have a mission, and that mission is to help people find and follow Jesus. I hope you know that. That's what we're trying to do. That's the reason why Harvester exists, because we think that is important. But we have a vision in which we are trying to, our strategy, we have a vision that is our strategy of how we are trying to accomplish that. And maybe you've heard these words before, but here is our Harvester vision. We hope people encounter Jesus, we hope people become like Jesus, and we hope people can unleash the hope of Jesus. So our goal is that when people come to Harvester, they first encounter Jesus, and they get baptized, and they accept him as Lord. And then they go through a process of becoming like Jesus, learning, studying, being in groups and active in that way. And then they become like Jesus. And then because they've encountered or because they've become, then they can start to unleash the hope of Jesus. All the things that they've learned and the way that Jesus has changed their life, they can start sharing that with other people, maybe through evangelism or maybe through service. That is the 3-step goal that we're trying to do to help people find and follow Jesus. That's what we're trying to help people do. And in student ministry, it's kind of hard because sometimes we do all of those things, right? Students encounter Jesus at the Landing on Sundays and Wednesday nights, or at Troy on Sunday nights. Students become like Jesus in our groups, and then we have service projects, and we encourage kids to invite their friends, so they're unleashing the hope of Jesus too. So they're kind of doing all those things, but what you might not have known is that our student ministry fits into one of those 3 bubbles. And that bubble, that circle that we fit into, that the area of the vision that we kind of own, is become like Jesus. So our vision, our focus in student ministry, everything we do, is to try to help students become like Jesus. And there's one thing that if you've been in student ministry for a little bit or for a while, you're going to learn really quickly that student ministry is a long-term game. It's a long-term game. It's about the long term, and the real wins come with a long view in mind. So if we have a short term, we're just thinking about this next Wednesday night or this semester, that's not where a lot of the fruit will be. A lot of the fruit will be in the long-term view. And so we want to, as a student ministry, volunteers, leaders, we want to own becoming like Jesus, but setting students up for a lifetime of becoming like Jesus. And that kind of works with our structure too, that we have a lot of leaders that start out from 6th grade in middle school and walk with them all the way up into high school. And it's kind of a cool thing that we are involved for the long-term view, that we see a crazy middle schooler grow up and become a high schooler and graduate and grow up and see their faith grow and grow and grow until their life is grounded in a solid faith that helps other people find and follow Jesus as well. So student ministry is about the long term, and we have to keep that in mind. So what we're doing in student ministry is we're setting people up for a lifetime of becoming like Jesus, which means, and translates in the everyday, every single week in and week out minutia of student ministry, is that in our large group times, we're setting them up for a learning about how to be at church. We're setting them up for a lifetime. Okay, I'm learning how to worship. I'm learning how to listen to the word spoken to me, learning how to listen to a message, right? So I'm learning what it means like to be in church. And then in group, we're teaching them, okay, I'm learning how to take what was said and apply it to my life. I'm learning how to hear what other Christians say and then process it for myself and figure out what I truly believe, right? And then ultimately what we're helping them do is we're helping them learn how to become like Jesus themselves. We're helping them learn that they don't need a Wednesday night or a Sunday night program, and their faith shouldn't solely rely on those things, but they can start growing in their faith at home on a Monday or Tuesday, or preferably every single day of the week, through reading their Bible and praying. So we're setting them up for a lifetime of attending church, of worshiping in that situation, worshiping in a large group setting. We're setting them up for a lifetime of having a biblical community of a few friends, or 5 or 10 or maybe even more, that they regularly discuss what's going on in their lives, they regularly pray with, and they regularly study the Bible. But we're also setting them up for a lifetime of learning how to become like Jesus by themselves through reading, praying, practicing the spiritual disciplines that we talk and we practice on Sunday mornings. We're setting up a lifetime of those things. And so our new student ministry vision is exactly that. We like to imagine that the vision is almost like a circle. I'll have that little thing down here so you can see a circle. Student ministry vision is becoming like Jesus. But what makes us become like Jesus? Where do we become like Jesus at? We become like Jesus in 3 different spaces. So if we turn the circle from this way and we turn it like that, it's almost like a table. So there's 3 legs of the table that holds up the student ministry vision and allows us to accomplish that strategy. So the one thing we do is we become like Jesus in worship. That's what we're about, becoming like Jesus in worship. This is on a Wednesday night or a Sunday night. We have worship settings, whether we're leading worship, we're singing, we're teaching students how to behave in a large group worship setting, how to listen to the message and how to engage in the worship, not just singing, but also the message and also all the other aspects that involve in the large group setting. We're teaching them how to become like Jesus in worship. And then the next part is becoming like Jesus in group. Now, the idea of becoming like Jesus in group is the idea of getting involved with other believers, other people in our small group, and dissecting the message and asking questions and asking people, hey, I don't know what that meant, or can you help me? And like getting a group of students who can grow in their faith together. So the cool thing is that every single part, every single leg that we have is really owned by a particular person or by a particular leader. So we have becoming like Jesus in worship. That's really owned by our student ministry staff. So whether that's me, Tara, Sam, or Grant at Troy, like we really own that worship part. Whatever the programming is, the large group, we really own that and try to make sure the students have a quality experience like that. But you guys really own the becoming like Jesus in group. That's where you guys come in. You guys come in and play a huge role because we believe that real growth happens in that group setting, that we can talk to them and talk at them for time and time and time again for hours upon end, but until they can start processing it for themselves, they're not going to become like Jesus. All they're going to do is just hear a lot of words and not know how it applies to their life. And I feel like for the past few years, since I've been here, we're really good at those 2 things because we have great student ministry staff, and not just me, but like the other people mainly. But we also have great leaders. You guys watching this video, you guys and the training, like you guys are incredible and you're great at leading group. But what I feel like we are missing, and the new part of the vision that we are really going to try to highlight this year, is becoming like Jesus by myself. So we're going to take the 2 things that we're really good at, becoming like Jesus in worship, our worship setting, and our small group setting, and we're going to try to leverage those to help students become like Jesus by themselves. And for my money, I would do anything. I would move mountains. I would cancel anything. I would change everything that we would do in student ministry if we could get middle school and high school students regularly praying and reading their Bible week in and week out. If we could get students to have an everyday type of faith, because I believe that's where the real life changes, where their faith isn't only resting on a program or their friends or their life group, but their faith is something that they're developing personally. And that's probably the hardest thing to do, is to get students to remember to read their Bible, to get students to remember to pray, to get students to have a devotional or a prayer life. But we're going to try to leverage all these things this semester and going forward, our worship and our small group setting, to help students learn how to do that. At this point right now, if you think of one student in your group, whatever their name is, and just think, okay, we want them, and we told them that their goal is to become like Jesus by themselves. And we left them to their own devices, and we said, okay, you have to become like Jesus by yourself. Go do it. Do you think that student would succeed? Like, do you think they would know how to do that? Do they think they would know how to just have a prayer life, or how to just start reading their Bible? Would they know where to start? Would they know what to do? Would they have any idea? I feel like even our best students, if I think about some of the best names that I can think of, the students that are really, really like bought in, I still think a lot of them would have a hard time right now having that faith, having that prayer life that is consistent throughout their week. And so we're going to try to help students really engage in the practices, specifically of prayer and Bible reading. That's what our goal is this semester. It's really easy to complicate everything and muddy the waters and give students a lot, right? You need to fast, and you need to have solitude, and you need to like do all these crazy things. But I feel like if we could just focus on two things, simple things. Let's focus on prayer, and let's focus on reading the Bible. I feel like that's something that we can work with. So this semester, everything that we do is going to try to highlight those two things. It's going to try to highlight and help students start practicing reading the Bible and praying. So our student ministry vision is becoming like Jesus, and we become like Jesus in three ways. Like Jesus in worship, like Jesus in group, and like Jesus by ourselves. So there you have it. There is our student ministry vision. We have over 100 volunteers who are passionate about students, and I think in the past what we've had is 100 leaders who all have kind of like their own vision for what they think should be done. So it's almost like 100 leaders all pushing in different directions, and you can see that we would probably get minuscule results. Through the grace of God, He's worked through us in amazing ways, and our student ministry has been growing and growing and growing. What I'm excited for is to see what God does through you and through our team when all of us get behind this vision to help students become like Jesus in those three areas. And hopefully, throughout it, we see students begin to have a faith that is not dependent on a program or a small group, but a faith that they own themselves. There are a few questions at the end of this video that I would love for you to kind of answer to yourself and think about how you would apply this vision to you and your group, and maybe some ideas that you have while you're watching this video as well. All right, praying for a great semester. Thank you so much for being a student leader, student volunteer. I appreciate you, and our team appreciates you too.